Hey guys and gals, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jay Anthony. Rolex Submariners, man, those things are so crazy overrated. Are they? I hear that a lot. Every time somebody talks about Rolex, if they don't like it, they're like, oh, everybody just has a sub. Everybody's got them. They're ubiquitous. Well, they are. Everybody seems to have them. That doesn't mean that they're overrated. Let me tell you why. Let's go take a look. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do a quick review of what is probably the most well-known watch and the watch that's synonymous with Rolex. You know, I recently did a review on the Breitling Navitimer, and I said when people think of Breitling, that's the watch they think of. And when they think of Omega, they think of the Speedmaster. Well, some people may think of the President or the Datejust, but I would be willing to bet most people think of Rolex, they think of the Submariner. In particular, they probably think of this version, the 114060, or the no date sub. You know, this is a watch that's been around for over half a century, and for those of you that remember when it first came out, one of the most famous characters at the time was wearing one. This is actually the original Bond watch. Sean Connery in the early Bond movies was wearing one of these, and you know, it's been an icon ever since. You know, when these first came out, Rolex was known for making expensive watches, of course, but that wasn't what defined them. They weren't defined by their price, they were defined by their precision. They were known for making extremely high quality diving instruments and just timekeeping instruments in general. You paid a premium, but you got quality with that premium, and you were basically buying the best. And that is something that I think Rolex has stayed by and large true in their price point ever since. I've mentioned this with my videos on Seiko and some other watch houses, but Rolex is definitely in the minority of a company that is completely vertically integrated. And for those of you not familiar with what that means from a supply chain perspective, Rolex does everything in-house. A lot of watch companies out there, you know, borrow movements from each other, borrow hairsprings, sapphire glass. They buy parts here and there, and they build their watches, some with in-house design, some with borrowed parts. And while Rolex may outsource, you know, a handful of parts, the majority of the design is Rolex. And, you know, because of that, when they make refinements to these watches, they only do things to make it slightly better. That's why the design itself hasn't changed much. I mean, Rolex could be accused of being one of the laziest design houses in the business. But you could also argue that there's really no reason to change the design because it is that timeless. You know, I think when it comes to the cars, a lot of people compare Rolex to Porsche because, like the 911, the Submariner is still very recognizable as a Submariner all these years on. It's definitely changed in many aspects. I think most notably on this version is, of course, this new ceramic bezel that Rolex has been using for about the last decade or so. But it is still an icon. It is still instantly recognizable as a Rolex. And just about anybody that would see this on your wrist would know it as a Rolex. The bezel, the oyster-style case, the oyster-style bracelet, these are all hallmarks of Rolex, and they're definitely intricate parts of their design language. And so I think because of that, I think there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand why people would have such passion for a watch that's over half a century old and frankly hasn't changed much. And I think that comes from a place of not understanding what a great watch the Submariner really is. And in a lot of respects, it really didn't need to change. At the end of the day, this is a precision timekeeping instrument, and it's a precision dive watch. And this watch today is still good at doing those functions. You know, the in-house 30-35 movement is still keeping the chronometer spec time, and it still does a good job of being a serviceable, reliable, and durable movement. And the oyster style case, a design that's been around for even longer than the Submariner itself, is just, again, a tried, true, proven design at keeping water out of a watch and being a good diving instrument, and it's just served its duty well. So this particular version is the base version of the Submariner, again, model 110 or 114060, I believe, off the top of my head. That does indicate that it does not have the date indicator. I actually prefer it without the date indicator. For those of you that are curious, that, of course, as you can see on my Explorer 2 over here, is that famous Cyclops magnification. I actually like the absence of it on this sub. I think it lends to an overall balance and symmetry that I think on this watch works well. That's why I've always actually preferred the old Sea Dwellers over the subs, because they had the no Cyclops. But in general, it's the same tried and true formula. You have slightly larger markers as they've gone to a more maxi dial on these in the last decade or so. The markers are actually white gold, which is a nice touch. The same beautiful clear printing that you've come to see from Rolex. You know, you do have the traditional Mercedes style hour hand over here. It still has Submariner on the dial, just as you'd like to see. Superlative chronometer officially certified. I mentioned that in my other videos. Again, this watch is tested to chronometer certification, and you should expect to keep chronometer spec timekeeping with this watch. Plus or minus a few seconds a day is not outside the norm and actually should be expected for a watch like this. The case is still roughly 40 millimeters. Again, the newer feature on these is that they now have the ceramic bezel, and this bezel is far nicer in person than I can capture on this camera. But it is, as you can see, shiny and picking up my fingerprints, but it definitely feels high quality and it turns with authority. This is a unidirectional bezel, and as I mentioned in every dive watch video, you just align the dot over here to the minute hand, and as time passes you can keep track of your allotted time. So again, you can use this to time all sorts of events, or if you actually do use this as a dive watch, you could use this to track all sorts of different variables for your dive, including your time on the bottom or your ascent time, or you name it. You could use it for a multitude of functions. It could be used to time the amount of time it takes to pop your popcorn in the microwave. I mean, you do what you want with it, but you can only ever add time, you can't take away time, so that is nice. It still turns just as beautifully as they always have. And of course it comes in a 904L stainless steel case, which is a higher grade surgical stainless steel. It's very anti-corrosive, so it holds up very well to rough use. They're still doing a high polish on the center links, and a brushed on the center and a high polish on the side of the links. You still get those nice screws for easy sizing on these bracelets. I love it. As I've shown in other more recent Rolexes, you still get the newer style clasp, which is really nice. It's got that beautiful quality. The quality in these is night and day compared to the old ones, as I've said. You guys may remember what they used to look like. That cheap fold-over crap. But this is, again, I think people think that these are because they're so popular that they're kind of overrated and they're just overpriced for what they are. And I have to say that I would disagree. You know, it is still what it set out to be. It is still a precision timekeeping instrument. I think Rolex reliability in their price range is second to none. I think that these watches take a beating and keep on ticking. I mean, these Rolexes can go for years and years of rough abuse and not be too upset about it. There's a lot of high-end Swiss brands that I would not say the same about. And some of those Swiss brands are service nightmares. And if you dropped one or bumped it into a wall, I think you'd be looking at a massive service bill. Rolex does a hell of a job of making these things tough, and they definitely earn a reputation for solidarity. And, you know, again, it hasn't changed a lot, but it really didn't need to. It's highly functional. They have the new luminous on it, which I can't show you. It's like a blue color. It's beautiful, but obviously it's a little bright in here. But it just still works, and the case is still a nice size. It does come with, of course, their triplock crown, because there's 3 seals. I'll unscrew it here for you. You can see where my finger is, there's a black seal. That is for one of the gaskets. There's actually 3 gaskets per the triplock. First position is winding, and second position is hacking. The second hand stops, and you can change the time. So it's a pretty simple watch. Hours, minutes, and seconds, that's really all there is to it. Again, it's good to about 1,000 feet. It's a dive watch. That's its purpose. It's not pretending to be anything other than a dive watch. And it's a great everyday companion. It's a rugged watch. It's going to hold its value. I think it's always going to be in style. And I hope to keep it around for a long time, and I really don't want them to change it. I like it a lot. And for those of you who are saying, well, that's a lot of money to be spending on a stainless steel watch. Again, you're paying for a highly precise diving instrument, and I don't think you'd want to be going diving in a white gold watch. Although Rolex would sell you one if you wanted to, but stainless steel makes sense for a dive watch, and you're paying for a high quality instrument, and it's going to hold its value, and it's always going to be in demand. So that's kind of a high little quick overview of the no date sub. I don't think they're overrated. I think that they've earned their reputation. I think they're a great watch. I think they're not for everyone, but if you're looking for a traditional, well-made, durable diving instrument, or just everyday wristwatch that's going to hold its value, that's going to take a beating and going to be reliable, and is really never going to go out of style, I really don't think you can do wrong with picking one of these guys up. Let's go ahead and throw it on the wrist here real quick. And do a little wrist shot before we part here. So I have just about a 7-inch wrist, and as you can see, it fits me pretty nicely. Takes up most of my wrist, but not in a overwhelming kind of way, and I think it wears well. And there's a similar 40 millimeter Explorer for comparison there. I think you can definitely see the contrast between the two of them, but again, great watch, and no, I think it's a great watch, and I would definitely recommend one if you're in the market. So with all that said, guys, let's go ahead and jump back. So there you go, guys. Is it underrated? Is it overrated? That really is up to you. As I've said, I don't think it's overrated. I don't think it's overpriced. I mean, it's worth whatever people are willing to pay for it. You know, Rolex started this trend. I mean, they, along with the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, really defined what dive watches are all about. And I would argue that they've been far more successful than the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. The Oyster case is an icon. The no-date sub in particular, with its ties to movies and just general history, I mean, it's a great watch. Everybody from James Bond to James Cameron has worn one for a reason. They're reliable, they're durable, they're functional, and they go with a lot of different kinds of outfits. They just have a great classic style, and I think they're a cool watch. Now, would I buy another one, having owned one before? No, probably not, but I have a GMT Master, which to me is more functional to my purpose, and customary wristwatch check and Explorer 2. And these are more my style, and I have my Omega C Master, but it does not take anything away from the Submariner. It's a great watch. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is this something you guys think is just massively overrated, or do you understand why people seem to buy this thing? Let me know down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you guys can catch me on my latest videos. And I always do try to read your comments, really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for the support on this channel. Also, thank you so much for the support on my motivational speaking channel, Coach Jay Anthony. Latest video linked somewhere around me. Anyway, guys, you're freaking awesome. I'll catch you guys real soon, all right? Take care.